Welcome back to Gig Harbor Paddling. Today we're going to talk about positive angle. Positive angle is what I'm referring to when looking at a side view of a paddler. What I'm looking for is when you're looking at the side of them and their paddle angle relative to their top hand. So a few weeks ago we talked about our top hand and the role of it being an anchor, and what the result will be is a positive angle on the top hand. The second the hands get into the same plane is 0 degrees, so to speak, or neutral, and then once you get past, or I'll show you on this side, once the bottom hand goes past and behind the top hand, we know that the angle is going to be negative and it has negative effects. And so today we're going to talk about what it looks like and some ways that we can fix going from burying our blade at neutral, instead trying to bury our blade into the positive angle and get the most out of our stroke. I stopped this on this frame because I was looking for when the blade is fully buried. What angle do we see? I say it's neutral because it's 90. So I'm going to use interchangeable words, right? So 0, aka 90 degrees, aka neutral, and then this is going to be positive, and then this is going to be negative. And the pivot point is based off of the top hand. You could think of it a lot of different ways, right? If this, you could think of it as an acute angle then if you use the water, but we're just going to use the top hand. What Connor is doing to get to the water is he is using this hand as the fulcrum point, and he's leveraging, he's like moving the paddle this way and throwing this hand forward, and he wasted all from here to here. This distance could have been in the water, but instead he shot his top hand forward. We do that for a number of reasons, right? But instead what Danielle just suggested, which I agree with, focusing again on the top hand, so we just need to work on the left arm a little bit more, is going from the setup down to the water. Keeping a top arm is going to allow you to bury your blade with positive angle that's going to last maybe a foot. That'd be awesome, but in reality it's not as much as we think. Austin is doing a pretty good job keeping his elbows on a plane throughout the stroke. He gets it up and then he keeps it forward versus letting his elbow go up and down, up and down. I would say his blade is not even buried yet. Do you see? You can see some of his blade. Yeah. So we're gonna find that Austin also has a positive angle deficit. If he put his power in the positive angle, he would go faster versus putting power in the negative angle. But do you guys understand why that's a bad thing? So he's buried here, and then he pulls. This is the rotation part, right? Here. He's going forward and then back. He rotates, but then he's pulling on the stroke, and it makes the boat go down when I want it to be going up and forward. If you're here and rotating, there's only up. You can only kind of go up and forward. But the second you pull, you're starting to pull back and down, it leverages you to go down like this, and your boat goes down. The nose goes down. If he just, I know we're a little past buried, so maybe he was a little bit forward. If his arm was straight and he maintained his rotation, he would have a great positive angle. He'd probably be buried up here by the Nello sign, because look at his top arm. I really like how he's holding his top arm. So there's two ways that you can keep positive angle, in my mind. One is control with the top arm, and the other is, are you rotated or not? Because if you're square in your boat, so your hips are facing straight forward, and you have the perfect catch and everything, and then you try to start rotating, you basically lost it all right there. But if you have your hands in this position, so watch my hands, I'm frozen, and I rotate, and then I bury, that gave me like 8 more inches because I rotated. So if he kept his rotation forward and his arm was straight, combined with this top arm staying bent, he would be golden. That's why I love the one-sided drill a lot and the power position drill.
So we're out here fully rotated. are we gonna just drop the blade in the water while we're holding our rotation? Or is this where spear the fish comes in? Where does spear the fish come in? Is he like spearing this way? Is that what?
I think that Greg Barton was talking to us about trying to hit the water fast, trying to spear a fish before it gets away, you know. But then I know some people say when you spear a fish kind of idea, you're like going forward. Physically, that's not possible if the boat's running forward. So you could try to tell yourself that in order to try to maintain your reach, if that's what you need to envision, but there's no way, because then you're just going to be backing up, right? So I think it's about like hitting the water fast, and the only way you can do that is by leading with your hips. So theoretically, your hips are technically a little ahead, but they should not be as ahead as a lot of our paddlers are. So if I see you losing reach because you start rotating, not good. But if I see you waiting just at the right time so that the second the tip of the blade hits and then you start your rotation, it's gonna look a little ahead of your stroke. Just like how in team boats we say, if you're in the back, you should try to be slightly ahead of the front person. I'm not gonna tell you guys that because you're not at that level yet where that micro little second counts. It's gonna happen naturally already. So that's why we're trying to tell you, hold your offside leg so that you keep the positive angle. But theoretically, your legs are going to initiate that stroke if we're using our hips for power. He has positive angle for a very short period of time, but he still has it. That's really good, Scott. So what I'm looking at right here is your relationship between your leg and the blade. I think I like the timing of that. So he's rotated there. I don't like how you're skipping your setup. I would like you to try to get a setup in between. The second he touches the water, I think, is when he starts driving. And I like that. What I don't like is how you're shooting your top arm. And then the other thing is square your blade up. You want it perpendicular. So imagine slicing through the water like a knife versus a spoon. Do you see how I can see the inside of your blade here? It's on the knife edge, right? If I'm side of you guys taking a video, I should not be able to read the Brasha logo on the inside of your blade. He needs to twist the paddle during the setup. If you skip your setup, you're not getting the full amount of benefit. So instead of going from exit to setup, exit to setup, catch, exit to catch, exit to catch, and just like doing the seesaw effect, that's what I call the seesaw effect. What if instead you breathe, you set up for a second, you got all this room between you and that water, you want to break its nose, and then you had that power and you had that space versus just like itty bitty space. So not only does it give you more power to have a taller setup, it also balances you in between strokes and it gives you time to set everything up. You need to set your arms up, you need to set the feathering up, you need to set your core up, you need to set your legs up. There's so many things to set up. That's why we call it the setup. And not only does it take time to contract, it takes time to relax. The best athletes in the world aren't the best just because they contract really fast. It's because they also relax really fast. They know exactly when to glide. And so in the setup, it's that time to relax just for a split second right before you contract again. Who here has problems with death gripping? A lot of you. And how does that help with the positive angle? No. It doesn't help because if you're glued all the way through your hand, the only way to get to the water is twisting your elbow up. Is this a powerful position? Go back to punching. Would you punch somebody like this? Or are you gonna punch somebody maybe with your whole body behind your elbow, behind your hand? We'll do a class later on that. But the point is, this is how we transfer power, right? It's all about the chain link. So if you break that chain link, messed up stuff is happening and power is leaking. You lose positive angle, you go slow, you're sad and you cry. So we don't want that. We want you guys to have strong muscles. So set up, feather correctly, or angle correctly, and we need to watch out for what we're doing with their bottom arm, what we're doing with their top arm, and what we're doing with their hips and when, and that's going to really help you guys have successful positive angle strokes.